Welcome to Jack's Skyblue Reviews. In today's episode, I am not going to review a movie as usual. Instead, I will give you my quick thoughts on the Indiana Jones Quadrilogy. I'm going to explain why the upcoming Disney Indiana Jones movie won't be canon with the originals, and I will also give you my reasons why I'm still looking forward to this film, despite me knowing that it's very likely going to be a train wreck. But before we get right into it, please be aware that this episode will contain some spoilers for each respective film. But if you're still watching this video right now, then it's safe to say that you've already seen every single Indiana Jones movie out there. So, without further ado, let's get it started. First of all, I will present to you my thoughts on the Indiana Jones movies ranked from best to worst, or to put it in better words, from best to least good. Number 1. Raiders of the Lost Ark. My favorite Indiana Jones movie, near perfection. I would admit that I don't have much to say about it, but that's only because this movie is just that great. The plot is very exciting, the mythology behind the Ark very intriguing, the characters are very memorable, the music composed by John Williams is phenomenal, though to be fair this also applies to the other movies as well. The romance between Indy and Marion is really sweet, and on a very small note, Karen Allen is pretty hot in this movie. All in all, an exciting movie and a full 10 out of 10. That goes without saying. Number 2. The Last Crusade. Back when I was watching this movie for the first time, it used to be my favorite Indiana Jones film. But what made me change my mind is that I do prefer the plot, the darker moments, and the characters from the first movie over this one. That being said, this film is definitely the funnier one of the two. And I really loved the interactions between Indy and his father Henry Jones Sr. because Harrison Ford and the late great Sean Connery are working alongside each other in what might be one of the best on-screen performances I've ever seen in any movie. And despite me feeling that the plot isn't as good as the first film, I still think that the Holy Grail mythology was very exciting. The romance between Indy and Elsa wasn't nearly as good as the one he had with Marion, but at the same time, Elsa was sort of an antagonist anyway, so their relationship probably wasn't intended to go anywhere serious in the first place. With all that being said, it's still a masterpiece, and I love it regardless of the criticism I've brought up. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Number 3. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yes, I ranked this movie higher than Temple of Doom, and there are several reasons for that. First of all, this film manages to be a triumphant return to the main franchise, and given that this movie came out 19 years later, it was definitely worth the wait. This film also marks the return of Indy's original love interest Marion, which felt like a sweet gift for fans of the original movie. And I even thought that Shia LaBeouf's performance as Indy's son Matt was pretty good, and felt that his character was a sweet homage to 1950s icons portrayed by the likes of James Dean and Marlon Brando. The story and atmosphere is uplifting as well as very exciting. The setting and genre shifting also just makes perfect sense given the setting and era of the plot, which is why the alien mythology in this film doesn't feel out of place, and it keeps the religious elements from previous movies intact, as seen with the tribe that worships the aliens like gods. I definitely need to dedicate an episode of Movie Rehab to this film in order to elaborate further on my defenses, because to me, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is an underappreciated gem, which, while inferior to the first and third film, still deserves a lot more love than it gets. Overall, a pretty satisfying conclusion to the Indiana Jones Quadrilogy, and a movie that truly deserves an 8 out of 10. Number 4. Temple of Doom. The weakest Indiana Jones movie, but not bad by any means. A couple of problems I have with this film is that it lacks the world exploring themes that the other movies have, since it's mostly set inside the titular temple. The set design and everything looks great, but it's also very bleak, and the longer the movie goes on, the harder it gets to sit through watching the same location over and over again. The Indiana Jones movies are usually well known for their rich amount of variety regarding the scenery, and the second half of this movie is just the same temple. It obviously changes during the last 5 to 10 minutes, but the movie's almost over by then. Oh, and there's also Willie, aka the worst love interest of the entire franchise. A character that even fans of this movie usually hate. I can somewhat defend her though because Willie is supposed to be annoying, so it's not bad character writing. She's annoying by design, as seen with everyone else reacting irritated by her obnoxious behavior. That being said, I will get to the positives because it still features some praiseworthy aspects. Despite my issues with Willie, her incompetence does actually lead to some good comedic moments from time to time. Then there's Short Round, and this kid is just awesome. One of my favorite Indiana Jones companions who's extremely competent, especially if compared to Willie. And the father-son-like bond between him and Indy really warms my heart. The beginning with Indy and company escaping Lao She and his henchmen? Amazing. The minecart chase scene? Awesome. The climax at the bridge? Iconic. So despite my criticisms, I still enjoy this movie a lot. And because of that, I like to give Temple of Doom a 7 out of 10. As most people know by now, there's also another Indiana Jones movie in the work. However, I am not going to count Disney's Indiana Jones as canon to the original Quadrilogy. Why is that? Well, it's very simple. George Lucas, one of the genius minds behind the creation, or literally any other writer from previous indie movies, and not even Steven Spielberg, who directed every single movie before this one, well, none of them are involved in that upcoming movie. Granted, Spielberg will be credited as a producer, but let's be honest here. If you're watching the live-action Transformers movies, which were mostly directed by Michael Bay, all of which had Steven Spielberg as an executive producer, do you look at these films and say, yep, this is a Spielberg movie? Didn't think so. I'll let you in on a little secret. Whenever a creator or several creators aren't involved in their own craft, it means that it doesn't count as part of the original canon. They're alternate universe stories at best, and big budget fan fictions at worst, like Disney's Star Wars. Despite the fact that Disney's Indiana Jones won't be part of the true canon, I am still really looking forward to the day this movie will come out. Not because I think it's gonna be good. To the contrary, I think it's gonna be horrible. However, what really makes me look forward to it is that once this movie comes out, it will make most people stop calling Kingdom of the Crystal Skull the worst Indiana Jones movie. I'm not saying that they will suddenly call it a masterpiece, but they will proudly say things like, perhaps we've been too cruel to this movie, or yeah, this film had its stupid moments, but at least it treats the title a hero with respect, or for all its faults, at least the original team, namely Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, have been involved. Especially as someone like me who loves Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and who will defend this movie to death, I am really looking forward to see Disney's Indiana Jones fail, and to witness people reconsider their thoughts about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Or better, having some of them even realize that it wasn't nearly as bad, if at all, as the internet made it out to be. It will be glorious. With that being said, if you're still looking forward to it, that's perfectly fine. For a long time, I was genuinely excited to see this movie as well. Unfortunately, due to the vast amount of changes that the main production went through, as well as seeing the original director leaving the project, the only spark that kept my hopes alive just faded away. Regardless of that, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And to make sure that this video won't end on a downer note, I will present to you a little preview to an audiobook project I've been working on for a while. With that, I hope you'll take good care of yourself and have a wonderful day. Bye. Zack was the name of the man who was always wearing a jeans derby on top of his head. It perfectly suited the jeans pants and jacket he was wearing. He has long, dark blonde hair, wears a pair of sunglasses, as well as a white shirt underneath his jeans jacket. Zack was spending his time at a bar called Alan's Pub, where he sat next to Alan's backup bartender Daniel Clerk. He wore a red baseball cap, as well as a red shirt, and he had a face that looks like he could only smile every 10 years or so. Zack then began to talk, while Daniel was listening to what the former had to say. So I arrived back home, and I found this letter inside my mailbox today. At first, I thought this would be a regular reminder about paying my bills, but once I've opened it, I became very surprised that a wrapping as tight as this could be capable to carry such a huge load of pages inside that small envelope. However, the real surprise came with what the first sentence told me, because it It was at that moment where I've learned that JK, a long-time member from a group I founded back in the early 2010s, just died from being near an explosion. Wait, an explosion? Daniel asked in a very surprised tone, while keeping a straight, unexpressed face. And who's JK? As mentioned before, he was a member on our group, and he happens to be one of the earliest people I've recruited. His biggest passion in life was mainstream music, which is unfortunate because nowadays, modern day music sucks. Zach then stood up, and then took a closer look at the bunch of pages that were inside the envelope. He then looked over to Daniel again. What's wrong? Daniel asked nonchalantly. This next page actually tells me about everything that went on in Jay's life, Zach answered in an intrigued-like tone. Daniel then asked, So this is about the life of JK then? Zach then sat back down. If you're interested, then I'll read this story while you're listening. Why not? Daniel replied back. You're the only customer in this pub today anyway, and I don't have much to do otherwise. Zach then paid his attention back towards each and every word from the letter he was holding, and then began to read it.